Newsroom Africa on Channel 405. I'm Refile Seboko in Rustenburg in the Northwest.
Let's get to this conversation now. The South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, that's SAHPRA for short, maintains that the benefits of the COVID-19 vaccine outweigh the associated risks. Now, the regulator has reported that there's been a first death directly linked to the vaccine. This is due to a case of the Guillain, or should I say the Guillain-Barré syndrome. Now, this follows the immunization with the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. It's a rare disorder in which the body's immune system attacks the nerves. Joining me now for more detail on this is the SAHPRA CEO, Dr. Boitumelo Semete Mokokotlela. Doc, thank you very much for your time. You're probably going to be fielding a lot of these as people want clarity in order to try and not be as anxious. Talk to us first about this particular death. Are you able to tell us where exactly it occurred and what the recourse for that family is going to be? Because people may be wanting compensation.
Sure, thank you. And thanks for having us. And indeed, we are fielding a lot of questions, rightly so, from the public as they want to understand what this means for them, especially those that have taken the Janssen vaccine. I must indicate that this individual started to feel these effects a few days after receiving the vaccine. So, you know, if you go through a period of time having not experienced these side effects, chances are you are in the clear. But again, you know, I'm not a clinician. And so I would say anyone who's not feeling well, like we've been saying, continue to consult your clinician. We unfortunately can't share the details, you know, of the individual just to maintain confidentiality around this matter.
Yeah.
The Department of Health has engaged, you know, with the family of the affected individual. And because there has been causality that has been demonstrated to be linked to the vaccine, the no-fault compensation scheme then kicks in. And Dr. Nicholas Crisp spoke to this yesterday from the Department of Health. He spoke to this yesterday at the press briefing, you know, that we had yesterday.
All right. The common symptoms to look out for, Doctor.
Sure. So, you know, with GBS, and it's unfortunate that we don't have kind of a clinical predisposition for GBS. That's really the unfortunate part about this specific syndrome. But, you know, as you rightly said in the beginning in your intro, that as soon as an individual feels, you know, numbing of the limbs or some muscle pain or so of the limbs, being the legs and the hand, and their arms, we would recommend that they engage and notify their clinician around this. Typically cases of GBS, and this is what we saw for those that were reported in other countries, it is manageable. You know, one can be put on various therapeutics to manage these symptoms. So experiencing a death from GBS, while it does occur, we know that there are many instances, more often than not, wherein it can be managed. Sure. We also have a microsite where people can look at the other common adverse effects following immunization, and we've spoken to this. This is experiencing fever, etc. So people must continue to monitor those.
Yeah, one of the words that's been used around this particular syndrome, Doctor, since your announcement yesterday was that this is a rare syndrome. And so the question is, out of how many people would you say this kind of syndrome appears? How rare is it?
Sure. So typically, I mean, it's a very rare syndrome. I mean, if you look at this case now with the Janssen vaccine, we had, and we've to date, I think, administered close to 9 million doses of this. And this is the first case that we see with the causality linked and with this syndrome. So, you know, we are continuously monitoring. And so we can safely say that in our context, we've seen one in 9 million. In the US, where they also rolled out the Janssen vaccine, they saw about 6 cases in 6 million that they had administered. So linked to the COVID vaccine, this is how rare this case is. But again, the clinicians will say that GBS, in vaccination programs, it is monitored for. Again, it remains to be rare. I think the numbers there are something like 3 to 5 individuals in a population of about 10 million. So the numbers do remain low.
One of the elements, Doctor, that is going to be quite difficult to contain is anxiety that people are going to start feeling, particularly those people that are aware that they did take the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Certainly.
What are the survival rates? I listened to one of the professors yesterday, and he said that it's almost impossible for you to survive this.
Yeah. So again, we do urge the public to engage with their clinicians. And what we have seen with GBS is that, particularly where it is related to a vaccine, because remember, as we said yesterday, you can get GBS from a viral infection, from a bacterial infection. So we know that even those who have had COVID can get GBS from a COVID infection. And again, if you look at just the science of vaccines, of how vaccines are developed, it would then make sense why even when you receive a vaccine, we do then get such cases like what we've seen now, unfortunately, and very sadly so with this individual. And typically the symptoms manifest within a few days. So if you took your vaccine months ago and you've been okay, again, I don't think there's a cause of concern. But the minute one is not feeling well, we would encourage that they engage with our healthcare practitioners. But because of just the etiology of this disease, it does manifest quite early, either in a COVID infection or in vaccination.
Yeah. Vaccine hesitancy, is that something that you think we are going to, again, start talking about in a country already that has not seen very high levels of taking up these jabs as government has sought in the last few months?
Yeah, so thanks again for that. I mean, we had continuously indicated, as a regulator, that we're monitoring the safety of these vaccines, and that whenever we become aware of either a serious adverse effect, we will report this to the public. And this is what we've done. And as we've indicated, GBS is not related only to COVID vaccines, is not related only to a SARS-CoV-2 infection. You find it also with other vaccines. And so I think making sure that we have the right information, that we continue to communicate that the benefit of vaccination far outweighs the risks that we, are seeing. And again, these are very rare adverse events. So, I'm really hoping that as we are transparent, those who are anti-vaxxers will realize that, we are open about what we're seeing and what we're observing with these vaccines. We're updating the professional information. And when we do identify something of concern, we will then communicate that to the public. So I hope us being transparent creates a level of confidence in our system, and that when we become aware of matters, we do communicate this, and that we will inform the public. And we have to make sure that we arm ourselves with credible information.
Yeah, Doctor, this is the first death in South Africa directly related to a COVID-19 vaccine. Where else in the world have you seen such reports?
Yeah. So again, different countries rolled out different vaccines to different extents. So GBS specifically, we saw reports of GBS in the US specifically because they had high numbers of the Janssen vaccine that they had rolled out. They reported quite a number of cases, I think something like 108 cases of GBS. Again, you have to take it into context with the size of the US population. We've also seen the European Medicines Agency report some numbers. They have seen some deaths, but these numbers are in the single digits in terms of the deaths. And what was then subsequently done is that, the what we call it, like, it's almost like a package insert, of the vaccine. Yeah. It does indicate this as a risk. So for J&J, we've got the thrombosis and thrombocytopenia syndrome, as well as now the GBS syndrome that, clinicians need to make sure that they are quite cautious on, and they're aware of that, and they engage with the patients prior to them receiving the vaccine.
Final question, Doctor. What conversations are you having with the pharmaceutical company that produces this particular vaccine?
Sure, thank you. And this is a very important role that we play to ensure that, and it's not unique to COVID, right? So with all therapeutics, vaccines, biologicals, wherein we become aware of a serious adverse effect, what they need to do is to make sure that they update as I call it, the package insert professional information, so that the clinicians know, and they know then how to deal, and that they need to screen for any individuals who present with this. Again, like with any medication, you are expected to have some side effects. The key thing is we need to know what it is. We need to know that it must be monitored prior to one receiving the therapy. And so with them, it's about them updating this. And then again, with the Department of Health, the family will engage then on the no-fault compensation scheme.
Dr. Boitumelo Simete Mokokotlela, she is the CEO at SAHPRA. Thank you very much for that information. All right, let's take a break. When we return, more news.